Well, welcome to the three of you. I am so excited to have a conversation with you. My name is Lyndsey Crum, and I have the privilege of serving as UNC's Assistant Vice President for Alumni Relations. Proud UNC grad, class of 25, political science degree, and so excited to talk with each of you today about your work in workforce development. So before we get into the conversation, I'd love to have a chance for each of you to introduce yourself, what you do professionally, what you studied at UNC, maybe just a fun fact about yourself as well. So why don't we get started with Cece?
Thanks, Lyndsey, and thanks for having me today. So I am Cece Makrowski. I graduated from UNC in 2005, which a bachelor's in communication and a minor in legal studies. I am the Workforce Deputy Director at Employment Services of Weld County. And fun fact, tomorrow is my 10-year anniversary. So I'm really excited that I've been here throughout this, the past decade, and I've gotten to experience so much, including knowing these fine gentlemen. So
wonderful. Thank you, Cece. Thomas, let's go to you next.
Thanks, Lyndsey. Thanks, Cece. Thomas Hartman. I am the Senior Consultant for Career Pathways and all things supply side in workforce for the Colorado Workforce Development Council. I graduated from UNC with a doctorate in education back in 2007. I like to say I was a graduate student, and fun fact, I was the Easter Bunny at the mall while I was going to school to help pay for room and board and books and just living. So that's me.
We all have interesting career moments and highlights for sure. How about you, Matt?
Hello, everyone. Matt Cornett, graduate in 2010 and 2021 with an MBA. And I'm the Assistant Director for the Colorado Veterans and Employment Training Service. Fun fact about me, that's a good one. I just participated in the Baker to Vegas relay run, which runs from Baker, California to Las Vegas.
Wow, how many miles is that?
My leg was 6.4 and 6.2 of it was uphill.
Wow. Wow. Welcome. You survived.
I did, barely.
Well, I am so excited to talk with the three of you today about workforce development and to have our alumni gain the value of your insight and expertise as they think about their careers, and whether those are recent graduates who are just crossing the commencement stage or individuals who perhaps have been out for a few years and ready to transition. Let's get started with defining workforce development. So that's what the three of you do. But for someone that doesn't understand what that term is, can you describe what workforce development is and how your work and your professional role address it? So let's start with Matt. We'll go backwards.
All right. Workforce development, in my opinion, is the process of upskilling the labor force in local communities across the country. In the state of Colorado, we have a state workforce agency that is separated into local areas across the state that focus on upskilling and meeting the needs of business in their communities. I believe that that's my opinion of what workforce development is. I would welcome a correction from Thomas or Cece.
no, I love your definition. For me, I really believe it's just connecting business with job seekers. It's really our responsibility at these local workforce centers, like Matt mentioned, to help with job search, writing resumes, connecting with education and training, so that people who are unemployed, underemployed, or even employed right now because of COVID, just getting them back into the workforce and self-sufficient so that they can support their families and everything that they do. I would say on my side, though, as a deputy director, workforce is a little bit more, it's larger for me because I'm constantly looking at federal rules and regulations, and I'm interpreting those for employment services along with our state policy guidance to ensure that we are serving customers appropriately and that we're really following the letter of the law. So that's my responsibility as a deputy director when it comes to workforce development.
Awesome. Thomas.
Just to add to that, it's really building the ecosystem of workforce. So it's the supply and the demand. It's helping individuals create competencies. Competency-based ecosystem is what we're going for, so that I can talk about what my competencies are. I can tell what I'm good at. I can talk about my education and my experiences. And then industry is getting their needs met by having the talent that they need with the qualifications or the competencies that they need. So it's really that matching, that pairing of, like Cece and Matt said, industry and individuals, so that not only individuals are economically prosperous, but our industries are economically prosperous too.
I think that's a great segue to our next question, and how the three of you work with industry and business leaders. So how do you go about understanding what their needs are and partnering with them? What is the role that each of you play or your offices play in partnering with businesses at the local level as well as more broadly?
So I'm happy to take it from the local level. Each of the workforce centers across the nation, especially here in Colorado, we have 11 core businesses. So it's our responsibility to offer hiring events, job postings, rapid response, and I can get into these definitions a little bit. But in our center alone, we have our business services manager, a work-based learning navigator, a resource specialist, and then 2 business services representatives. So we really lean into our employee strengths to help our community. So for example, one of our employees, he's completely responsible for planning and executing all of our job fairs and hiring events. So he is fielding emails, making those phone calls, doing outreach, checking to see if people want to participate in these job fairs. We have 2 on site every month and then larger ones throughout the year. One of our other employees, she's a data expert. She has labor market information tools, pulls information for our businesses pretty much every day. They call and say, hey, I need a wage analysis. Am I paying enough to my employees? And we provide them with what others in the area are doing, to include information from Larimer County. Our work-based learning navigator, she is responsible for setting up internships, which we also refer to as work experiences, on-the-job training opportunities, and registered apprenticeships. So little fact is that our workforce centers can pay a wage for like work experience. So we will pay 100% of the wages up for a certain amount of time. We even cover the workman's compensation. So it's kind of like a try it before you buy it for businesses. And then if they do hire somebody and maybe they need extra tools or just extra skills, then we could do an on-the-job training where we pay 50% of the wages, again, for a set amount of time. So we're really trying to help the business ensure that they're getting people through the door that are serious and want to work for them and gain the skills necessary, and then compensating the business so they're not, at a loss. Because like right now, we don't have a lot of people free. They don't have a lot of free time to be training new people because we're in this labor market where we're so short right now. So I think that's what I can offer for you at a local level. What do you guys think?
Matt, do you want to go?
Sure, yeah. I think what I'd like to add to that is the resources that are available are incredible. For both for the benefit of business leaders when they're trying to navigate hiring in this environment, and for individuals who are trying to get a job or trying to get promotions. The resources are incredible. There's so many. Part of my role is to ensure that businesses understand that they don't have to always look for an individual that checks all the boxes that they're used to checking. They can do that, and they can fight the labor market and go through shortages and really struggle to hire, or they can look at utilizing some of the services that Cece mentioned and growing an individual to meet their very specific needs in their organization. And in doing that, they can access a broader array of talent and invest in that talent, perhaps likely get more longevity out of that individual. It's better for everyone. And so what I do in the workforce system is largely look at those strategies for linking and developing and making it easy for business and programs to come together.
That's a good segue. You know, in my role, I work with industry and business leaders to understand what their critical occupations are, and then what are the critical competencies for those occupations. And then what I do is I build career pathways and I publish them so that students and job seekers can look at what are the competencies and experiences that I need to get those jobs. And they're more likely to get that job because they walk in knowing what the employer is expecting. And I think that's pretty valuable.
I think that's incredibly valuable. And the three of you have access to that intel or that insight. Can you demystify that a little bit? We think about someone who's about to graduate from college or recently graduated from college, and they don't know what employers may be looking for. They don't know what trends businesses are looking at in their hiring needs, let alone the resources that entities like yours can provide. So what do you see in terms of the trends that are hitting the workforce, and how would you simplify what you're seeing for a recent graduate?
That's a great question. I know for us, we're here in Wells County, right? So we have 12 industries that we focus on in our regional and local plan every 4 years. So we work closely with the state to develop a plan on saying how we're going to help each of our constituents. So for us, I would say oil and gas is still one of those trends that's kind of just there. You know, we're really waiting for that one to bounce back because it does impact a lot of others, transportation, finance. Most people don't look at it into that much detail about other jobs that it could be affecting. When it comes to hiring though, there's so many employers out there, you kind of have your pick right now, but know that you have to be just as flexible as well. I know a lot of people are wanting remote work, and some employers, it's just something that they cannot offer. We also have a law here in the state of Colorado now where a job has to post the range of the wage. So for example, they pay, for simplicity's sake, $10 to $20. That might be overtime. That might be a progression. So just be mindful of that when you're applying for jobs, because there may not be room for negotiation. I am hearing from employers that once people find out that they cannot negotiate, $18 an hour, that they actually just drop out of the interview process. So be respectful of their time as well as your own when you're job searching.
I like that. I think you're absolutely right. And it has been interesting seeing the impact of that state law as more jobs are posted. And now we do have a little bit more salary transparency, seeing that alongside a push for remote work, where some of our graduates are looking at jobs that might be outside of Colorado where they don't have salary transparency, but have the option of thinking, where do they want to go, and trying to navigate the different ways that companies in the states in which they operate work and under what guidelines and rules they have to operate. It's an interesting environment for our graduates to navigate now.
I'll add to a little bit of Cece's. Many industries are really becoming digital. And then, of course, the rise of remote work, like Cece mentioned, is really affecting how we collaborate. And so it's really important for recent graduates to be nimble and be ready to adapt and be flexible, like Cece said. Recent graduates are going to want to understand the employer's changing competency needs in that environment and how to acquire and then express their individual competencies, and they want to match what the employers are asking for. And one of the resources that graduates can look at is we've got a product in Colorado called My Colorado Journey. And so that's a support system that we do research. We talk to Colorado companies. We interview people that are hiring our graduates, and we ask them, what is it that you want to see? And so students can access that free. It's free, it's a resource, and see what the industries are saying.
I love that. Well, we will definitely make sure that the link to My Colorado Journey is available for our alumni, because you're right, it's a great resource and it's paid for, right? That's part of what our tax dollars are going for, is supporting programs like this. Matt, was there anything that you wanted to add to that conversation point?
Sure, just really quickly. So I graduated from the MBA program in 2021. So a lot of it's really fresh in my mind still. And one of the resources we utilized was a book called The Agility Factor. And it talks about how successful businesses are able to move and move quickly. And that's a key proponent of what makes them so successful. And part of that, this is going right back to what Thomas was saying, the ability to be nimble, to shift, to grow, to be able to upskill and reskill. When you graduate from college, you're equipped with a solid foundation to grow on. And from there, you should be looking at what's next for me. How can I be nimble, meet the needs of my current employer? Where do I want to go? And start thinking about a pathway to get there. And it does involve reskilling. I graduated in 2010 and got an MBA in 2021. That's about 5 years too late. But I got it, and it's been incredibly valuable. And that's the mindset I think that you need. Be nimble and look for ways to meet the needs of your employer, whatever you're passionate about, of course.
I love that. There's a professional that I follow on LinkedIn who works in the alumni and career services space. His name is Ryan, and he once wrote a blog post called The Hiring Manager Story. And when he advises students from the university that he used to work for on how to land a job and how to write a cover letter, it was always helping them understand the context of the hiring manager and the business, and understanding how do you position yourself to fulfill and meet the needs that that hiring manager has, right? You need to understand their pain point, understand what their needs are, and then position yourself for that. And I think that that's a great way to frame what you all are saying and how we think about our graduates and how we help them prepare to be flexible, be nimble, meet the needs of a changing workforce, changing business needs. And those needs are changing so rapidly. So if we were to kind of step back away from the individual and like institutionally, what are universities like UNC needing to do to be better in tune and aligned with those changes? How do we help students graduate with the competencies and the solid foundation? And how do we stay aware of that as things are changing so rapidly?
I've got an opinion on that. But really, I think the university really needs to look at what are the industry needs, and then aligning their programmatic outcomes to match what those opportunities are, creating opportunities for work-based learning within the curriculum. One of the other things that's come up recently in a couple of conversations is a lot of our training requires internships, practicums, things like that. So to ask a nursing student or a speech pathology student to be a full-time student, to do a practicum or an internship, and have a full-time job, it's pretty tough. So paid internships, paid work-based learning experiences, apprenticeships is really, really important.
I definitely agree with you, Tom. Just asking workforce to be part of the conversation, inviting us to your meetings, advisory committees, if you have any for your departments. And we're not there to solve all the world's problems. We're not going to tell you what you have to do, but we can definitely give you some resources and tools that can be utilized to help our students really be successful in school, especially like you were saying with their families as well, being able to have that work-life balance, school balance, whatever they need, but still be financially stable.
I really appreciate that. And I love that you want to be a part of the conversation with universities. And since all three of you are alumni, I mean, that's wonderful. That's what I love to hear. And I think, today's conversation is a part of that. And while the audience is predominantly alumni, we are sharing this with our faculty and our program staff. And so if I have a member of the faculty watching this and they call me up and say, Lyndsey, I really liked what those alumni had to say. How do I work with them? How do I reach out to them? What's your response? How would you like our faculty and programs to work with you?
So being in Greeley, I mean, you're welcome to come to my office anytime. I know our contact information will be sent out as well. So, give me a phone call, text message, send me an email. I'm more than happy to respond to you, even on the weekends.
Awesome. Much appreciated.
Same here. Yeah. Text message. I'll get a notification from LinkedIn before I'll check a text message though. So heads up there.
Yeah, I'm all about LinkedIn. I live on that.
Yep. I accept all forms of communication. I've even got an app. If you have my email, or if you've ever gotten an email from me, I've got an app, and anyone can just, this is going to be tough going out there because I know this is going out there far and wide, but I'm not too afraid. You can schedule an appointment with me. It looks at my calendar. It says there's an open hour. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, I use a similar resource. The alumni team, we all use a similar resource. We use Microsoft Bookings, so that when alumni are wanting to have a career conversation about transitioning to a different industry, a different profession, we try to make it as easy as possible for them to access us. And you can do that through the alumni website. And I love that more organizations are looking at making things easy like that. On-demand resources, one-click, one-touch resources. I think just as our businesses evolve, the way that we connect with them evolves. And so thinking about that and thinking about the resources that you offer, what are some of the most underutilized resources that if you had a platform and you could just megaphone that out, this is what we do, this is how we can help you. What do you think those are? What would you like folks to know?
I would go with mentorship. And here's why. Mentorship is incredibly important because you gain access to knowledge that it took someone years to gain, and you can gain access to it immediately. That is invaluable. On top of that, when you look at individuals who are struggling to find work or who are transitioning, sometimes they fall into a category that we call network poor. What that means is they don't have the network sufficient to find their next job or to transition into a new industry. And some of the graduates find themselves there because they're starting out in their career or they're transitioning into a new field. Mentorship helps with individuals who are network poor. It provides them access to networks as well. And networking is obviously, that is the best way to find a job. So that's why I say mentorship.
Wonderful. Thanks, Matt.
Mentorships are one of my favorite things. Has had a huge impact on my life throughout my education. I've had several really good mentors. And now that I'm of a ripe old age, I've learned a new thing. It's reciprocal mentoring. So I have recent college grads that I work with, and we mentor each other. And it's a very reciprocal kind of relationship. It's amazing. It really works really well. But to add to that, reiterate work-based learning experiences. But we forget our university career services. UNC has great career services. If you're not talking to them when you're a freshman, which I know a lot don't, but you're kind of missing out. You're kind of missing out something that's readily available, super useful. Your local workforce center, Cece, online resources like My Colorado Journey. There's a lot of resources out there. I think students wait too long to start accessing them. So sooner is better.
Yeah, my answer really is that hands down workforce center, because that's who I am, right? My biggest example is that when you file for unemployment in the state of Colorado, they require you to sign up to our state job board, which is connectingcolorado.com. And a lot of people sign up and then they forget about it. They have no idea that it is actually tied to our workforce centers throughout the state of Colorado. So being able to come in and utilizing all of our services, to include just our computers. We have computers if you need to apply for a job. We have a phone if you need to make a phone call. We have a fax machine, you know, for those of you that know what those are. Assessment and learning center on site that will assess your soft skills, your aptitudes, your interests. So there's just a lot of free tools here within the Workforce Center, and it's your tax dollars basically. So come in and utilize those services, because we are more than happy to help you gain, you know, better employment or just employment overall. And then we also provide supportive services at the Workforce Center. So if you're enrolled in one of our programs, maybe you're having a hard time getting to and from, you know, your classes, we can help pay for your transportation, give you a gas voucher or bus pass. We help pay for books, and maybe if you found a job in construction and you need steel-toed boots or a tool belt, like, we will pay for all of that, just to ensure that you are stable getting into employment. So hands down for me, the least utilized resource is our Workforce Centers.
I love that. And I'm imagining a lot of people don't realize how many resources are available through their local Workforce Center. So for, you know, just looking at Weld County and thinking about the alumni that live in Bear Country, how do they access your resources? You know, is it going to a website? Is it coming to your office? Is it a combination? It seems like there's all these great things you do that can be a little overwhelming for someone who maybe hasn't navigated that before. What's the first step? You
know, that's a great question, because I know I'm speaking here for Weld and Colorado, but even nationwide, if you visit careeronestop.org, there is a search tool to kind of look for local help. So you can enter your zip code or your city, state, and it will tell you where your closest Workforce Center is. And then, of course, walk into it. You know, walk into the Workforce Center. In the state of Colorado, if you go to cdle.colorado.gov /WFC, you will see a map that has all of our Workforce Centers. So I can give that information to you, Lyndsey, so you can share it out to the team as well.
Yes,
but that's how I would recommend people connect. What do you fellows think?
That's right on. Couldn't have said it better myself. You're right there. Using the Workforce Centers, accessing the Workforce Centers. There's lots of national websites, but all of our websites kind of point to each other. So there's no wrong door.
So if somebody's wanting to take advantage of those resources, are there certain requirements that they have to fulfill? Is it based on where they live? Is it their work status, or is it, I mean, how do people connect?
You know, it can definitely vary. So I will say, like, we have 18 different funding streams right now. I'm not going to tell you what those funding streams are. What I'm going to tell you to do is come in and we will figure out which one will work for you. In the state of Colorado, we were fortunate to have House Bill 21-1264, which gave us some flexibility with some of the ARPA type funding. So we're doing, it's called Reskill, Upskill, Next Skill in each of our Workforce Centers. And the main criteria is that you had to have had a COVID impact that showed that you had, you know, an economic loss because of COVID, and we will get you enrolled. So you can even have a job, you know, a job, but you want to just gain extra skills so that you can move up in your positions, or maybe you want to change what you're doing. You know, we have a lot of people with COVID that decided, this is not my passion. I'm done. I want to go and become a teacher. So, you know, how do you go about that? We will support you in that. So that is the most flexible dollars today, you know, because of the pandemic, but we will always find a way to get people eligible.
I love that. I mean, it's great. I think there's so many wonderful resources that are available, and just helping people know about them, access them, so that they can achieve what they want for their careers. And certainly that's a benefit to our local economy and our businesses. Then we all thrive together, and we want that. You mentioned upskilling. And so with our alumni, you know, we graduate, we start our careers, and sometimes we are ready to change. Sometimes we want to move to a different industry or different profession. How can alumni start by thinking about a transition like that and think about transferable skills and upskilling? Where should they start?
I think I think every individual needs to take a hard look at themselves and determine what their best skills are and maybe what they need to work on. Obviously, no matter what day one on the job, you're going to have a learning curve and need to develop new skills or learn new tasks. But before that, prior to that, individuals can work on communication, being able to deliver a message, or active listening skills. They can work on things that help them engage with other people. Working on presenting yourself in a professional way. These things go miles in terms of looking for work and readying yourself for a career.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, Matt's right on. You know, we sometimes hear different terms. We hear like soft skills or work ready skills, or, you know, they're kind of like the non-technical skills. So Matt, congratulations, by the way, on the MBA. You probably learn a ton of technical skills, but what you're talking about is the stuff they don't necessarily teach you. And some of that is those work ready skills. So self-reliance, interpersonal skills, problem solving, industry awareness. What is the work that I'm doing? Understanding the company I work for and their place in the economy. Maturity, teamwork, self-esteem, organizational skills, stress management, self-care. You know, are you emotionally intelligent? How do you cope with trauma? We've all been through a shared trauma with economic and COVID and everything else. How do we deal with that? And then how does that show up at work? All of that are the things that employers will either advance you for or maybe deny you some advancement. It's usually not your technical skills. I think our schools do a pretty good job teaching us what we need to know. It's those other skills, those work ready skills that are really important.
Yeah, and I think I could take it, you know, slightly into another direction. Talking to alumni, maybe some of you are parents that stayed home with your children, you know, and you haven't been in the workforce for 3 to 5 years. And now you're like, what skills do I have? You have thousands of skills. You're a taxi driver. If you've taken your kids back and forth to school and sports, you know, childcare, you're taking care of your child. These types of skills can just go into other jobs. So really look at those job descriptions and read them and say, hey, you know what, I have done this. You know, don't shortchange yourself when you're looking at transferable skills.
Are there resources that any of you would recommend for doing a skills inventory or listing these skills out? Because I would imagine that for some of our alumni, they've not done that reflective work yet. So they don't maybe know how to list some of those skills that they have that are transferable. Are there resources that you advise your clients to use to inventory that?
So at our site, we actually have a workshop every single week. It's called Transferable Skills. So I know other workforce centers offer that as well. And it's really just, you know, sitting down with a facilitator for a few hours with others in the classroom to talk about it and to learn what those skills could be.
That's awesome.
I think utilizing networks too, going back to mentorship and networking, but utilizing networks and specifically if you have a network, an individual you can talk to that's in the field you're looking to advance into, asking them to sit down with you, like, look at my resume, talk to me about my skills. Where do you see an area I can grow? Being vulnerable like that, because sometimes it's hard to hear if you don't communicate well, or if you're not emotionally intelligent. But there's nothing that you can't learn. I think that's really important to realize as well. There's nothing you can't learn.
Well, I love that, Matt. And I'm just going to do a little plug for the Alumni Network at UNC. So we have 138,000 living alumni worldwide. That's a pretty large network, and we all have something in common, UNC. We may do different things. We live in different cities and different communities. But what I often tell recent graduates and even current students, if you are looking at entering a certain profession or industry, talk with an alum who's doing that work. talk with them about what they do and how they use their UNC degree. And it's one of the first stops that I have with an alum who's getting ready to transition. And they talk to me about what they want to do. And I say, well, let me introduce you to someone who's doing that work, because who better for you to learn from than somebody doing it. And because you already have something in common with them, it takes a little bit of that fear factor away and being vulnerable, as you said, Matt, because that can be intimidating. And yet there's this amazing network that we have available to our students and to our alumni to help them make these transitions. And I think when you pair that with the workforce resources that you all are sharing today, as well as the education that we graduate with, I think it's just a powerful trifecta that our graduates can use to advance their careers in their communities.
I love it.
Go Bears.
Yes.
Thinking about some more resources, and Cece, you mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but for those who perhaps don't have reliable transportation, or maybe some other financial barriers that are getting in the way of the pursuit of a career or entry into a career, how can our local workforce centers help with that?
You know, I definitely want to toss this to Thomas, because he has this amazing website that he's been working on for the last few years. And, you know, I cannot explain it any better than him. So, Tom?
So we do, we work with our workforce centers. They're big users. We call counselors, advisors, job coaches, alongsiders. You know, Lyndsey, you're an alongsider. Everybody is alongsider, but they don't have all the tools. You don't know about every occupation out there. You don't know about every resource. So things like Connecting Colorado, but specifically My Colorado Journey, connects all of those things. We're really trying to get that one-stop shop. It's a career counseling, it's career development, it's assessment, but it's also the wraparound services. So where do I go? We're tied with platforms like 211, which is basically, where do I go for transportation? Where do I go for childcare? How do I support my going to school, my upskilling, my reskilling, my job search, my job finding? So that's a Colorado resource. And then it connects to other resources nationally and locally. Like I said, they all keep pointing to each other, but that's a good first stop.
I love it. Well, we are just going to make sure that that is all over everything. Help our folks get those resources. As we wrap up our conversation today, I'd love to hear what final advice you have for UNC recent graduates and alumni as they're thinking about their careers and the world of work.
All right, I'll go first, guys.
Thank you, Cece.
Just really being passionate about your work, it makes a huge difference in your daily life. You know, I'll admit it took me, I believe it was 2 jobs and about 7 years after graduating before I really stumbled into the workforce center, workforce development, I should say. And I realized that was my calling. I actually met Matt when I first started here in 2012. He was also an employee of employment services, you know, so he's somebody who helped develop my career as well. So, you know, it was really okay that it took me those 7 years before I found what my calling was. And I really feel like that was the beauty of lifelong learning for me. You know, every day we pick up a new skill, life lessons, and then we're just continuously growing. And so it's okay if you don't find that fit immediately. And then again, if you're struggling in any way, you could connect with any one of us so we can help provide that career coaching and guidance and mentorship, as Matt said.
I love it. Thank you, Cece. Well, Matt, I think that teed you up pretty well. So what final advice do you have? Nothing like calling you out.
I've been telling everybody that I learned everything from Cece. I didn't know. I would say, going back to what Cece said, be patient. Be patient with yourself, and don't be afraid to fail. Not everybody's first job is in the career that they're going to have for 30 or 40 years, or however long. Not that it's not in the cards for everybody. And keep a growth mindset so that you have the mindset to continue learning and next skilling, I guess is the word I should have been using. Yeah. So be patient. And I was going to say, it's not every day that you can change the world, right? You don't change the world every day. I set my alarm for 6:30 this morning thinking I would change the world, and I snoozed it. So I lost the opportunity, but that's what I would say. Be patient and keep a growth mindset.
Well, I don't know that you lost the opportunity. Perhaps it just came a few hours later than anticipated, because I think the insight that the three of you are sharing today is going to hit home for a lot of our alumni and recent grads who just need to hear it phrased for them a different way. And it's so helpful. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thomas, final words of wisdom.
Okay, so as a graduate of the UNC education doctorate program, I have to get into student human development. And so there's a human development model for career pathways that I use. And it's definitely a culmination of lots of theory and practice. But basically, step one, build self-awareness. We've heard us all talk about that. What are my competencies? How do I talk about them? What are my values? What kind of lifestyle do I anticipate I need? And then, well, always improve your emotional intelligence. That's good for everybody. The second step is understand the world of work. So what's out there? What are the occupations? What are their competencies that they require? And then match those. Here's what I bring. Here's what the company's looking for. Let's find that match. The second one is identifying any gaps that you might have. So on a career pathway, if I asked all of you, was it a straight line? You'd all say, no, it was a curvy line. And there was on-ramps and off-ramps and stop-outs and startups.
Roundabouts.
Oh my gosh, Colorado roundabouts, right? Really identifying what are your gaps and what is that next stop that you want to make on your career and how do you get there? So map it out. Final step, achieve your goals, be happy. It's really that simple. If you have the right tools and you have the right people to talk with.
I love it. I think that one of the great privileges of the work that we do at UNC is getting to follow the thousands of alumni who graduate from this institution and watch their paths. Sometimes it does go a little roundabout, on ramps, off ramps, but it is really amazing to see someone who takes such joy in what they do and what they've been able to do using a UNC education in building a career. And whether that's as a teacher, a nurse, a business leader, a performer on Broadway, it's so much fun when you see people truly happy in achieving their goals. And so I love that you ended that way, Thomas, because I think that that is what we would all aspire for every member of our UNC family to have in using their UNC education. As we wrap up, I took a lot of notes actually, and a few words really stuck out that I want to leave for anyone watching. And of course, the websites we talked about, we'll make sure that those are up, and the captions will make sure that folks have access to all the resources that you shared today. But all of you talked about flexibility, passion. Cece, you talked about lifelong learning, patience, and a growth mindset. And I think about the quality of a UNC education and what we are teaching our students, even when we don't think we're teaching our students. And I think all of those come out through a UNC education and UNC experience. And so I would encourage our students who are graduating and our alumni to really lean into what they gain from the university, because the words that you use to describe success, really, it's all of those words. And I see those words wrapped up in the way that we experience UNC, regardless of when we attended or what we studied. I do believe that you can find that here. And then, of course, let's connect you to the resources that all of you shared, because I think really underappreciated how great the work that all of you do. And I'm so excited to get our alumni and our students connected to these resources, and our faculty as well. I think that they will be amazed to learn what is literally right here. Cece's right up the road. And what's available online. I think that career becomes more and more important in the work that we do in higher education. And we don't need to try to make it up ourselves when the resources are already there with the expertise. to help our students be successful and really putting our students first. So I want to thank the three of you so much. As alumni, as leaders in your work, for sharing your expertise and time today. I can't wait for this video to come out. It will be all over my LinkedIn and my Twitter, as well as the alumni communication and with our career team as well. So thank you. I know that I will be working with the three of you on many things coming up, as well as the work that you do with partners across the university. So thank you. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I can't end without saying, go Bears. So bye.